And our turbulent petroleum romance continues. But what if it shatters our hearts again? I'm Jamie Fitzpatrick. Welcome to the broadcast. How about those numbers? 180 million barrels of oil, 800 construction jobs, 250 platform jobs, a projected $3 to $4 billion for the provincial coffers. In an economy desperate for good news, the expansion of the White Rose oil field, announced on Monday morning, is cause for celebration. But Delia Warren has her doubts. She's a veteran of the oil industry, having worked in both Europe and North America. She's now with a nonprofit group, Iron and Earth. It advocates for renewable energy and a more diversified economy. Delia Warren joined me in the studio to talk about the White Rose announcement, and she began by questioning the predicted revenue estimates.
These are all projected numbers, and it is difficult to tell, especially at this stage of a project development, if the numbers are realistic or not. But I mean, one thing that I would definitely caution anyone before getting too excited about is oil prices are volatile. We all know that. It's impossible to predict where the oil price is going to be in a year, 5 years, 20 years' time. It could be up. It could be way down. Also, energy policy is changing all over the world. With the increased focus on climate change, increased development of renewable energy around the world, it could have an effect on energy policy. So before we get too excited about the projections, we need to kind of remember what happened the last time the oil price dropped here and how much of a negative impact that had on our economy.
Have you been looking into how a potential carbon pricing regime might work, and whether that would favor or imperil oil developments like the ones we do offshore? Absolutely.
Well, we haven't really established what that policy or framework is going to look like surrounding the carbon price in Newfoundland and Labrador. But it's true that it is going to add to the cost of production significantly. I just did some quick numbers here. I saw 115 million barrels in the West White Rose development. That equals about 37 million tons of CO2, which would cost upwards of $1.5 billion in carbon taxes at $40 a ton. So I mean, these are just basic calculations. I don't know exactly what the price of carbon is going to be, but $1.5 billion for a project that has $3 to $4 billion in expected economic benefits for the province. That is a significant number, and one that we can't ignore.
I don't know how much it costs or how many jobs are created if, for example, we were to do a renewable energy project in comparison to something like this. And fair enough, we extract oil and sell it on the market as opposed to renewable energy, which we'd be presumably creating for ourselves. But is there any way of comparing an oil project to a potential renewable project?
Absolutely. Like you said, it is difficult to compare, but experts predict that 1.8 to 4 times as many jobs can be created in renewable energy for a comparable amount of energy creation. The proposed Bay St. George wind farm is expected to cost about $700 million, and that'll create around 100 permanent jobs and 600 manufacturing jobs. So if you scaled that up, you would actually see quite a significant amount of jobs being created for less cost. And one thing you also have to notice with the comparison between jobs created in the oil exploration and development industry and in renewable energy is the time frame. With renewable energy, it's an endless resource. The jobs that you create will exist for as long as the infrastructure is there. And then as the infrastructure ages, you can replace it. Jobs are created in maintenance and repair. And then the life of the project goes on. Once your infrastructure is paid for, you're essentially selling your energy at cost.
I know that we've got this announcement today about the White Rose extension. I've done stories over the last few weeks about oil exploration that's continuing in the Flemish Pass and land sales for oil exploration that are going to happen off the coast of Labrador in the near future. Do you feel like you're kind of pushing this ball up a very, very steep hill and that we're still all in on oil from the looks of it?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm well aware of our province being very tied to the oil industry and the prevalence of that industry here. And we have benefited a lot from developing this industry. And I'm not going to pretend that, you're going to be able to go out and build a wind farm and all of a sudden the oil industry won't matter anymore. But it's important to diversify your options. I mean, if you were to make an investment and put all your money on one company, nobody would support that. It's not a smart investment. The same way our economy is so tied to the oil industry and the volatility inherent in that industry. I mean, it's just scary. What I would like is for us to diversify our energy strategy, diversify our economic strategy, and really invest in other things besides just putting all of our eggs in that oil basket. We have the most powerful wind resource in all of North America. Statistics show that. We have a very strong wind resource that is just waiting to be developed. We are an island. We have access to lots of port infrastructure. We could increase our manufacturing capabilities here and even become world leaders in harsh weather renewable energy systems such as wind turbines, just how we have really done with the offshore oil industry. We're experts in harsh weather exploration and development for oil and gas. So there's just a lot of opportunities here, and I really think that it's about considering all of the opportunities together instead of just fixating on one industry.
I know that you used to work in the oil industry, and you're qualified as a mechanical engineer. You worked in Europe for a while.
I did. Yes.
Do you think over in those jurisdictions, are they a bit more diversified than we are, and do they have other options?
Oh, no question. I mean, you can see it just from walking down the street in Europe that renewable energy and even the belief that climate change is real and that we need to do something about it, it's common sense. It's commonplace in society. They really believe this. So we are very far behind in North America, but I hope we can take some lessons from Europe, specifically Denmark. They've got a very strong offshore wind capacity, and Scotland, and then there's Norway, who has invested a large percentage of the revenue that they've received from oil over the years to future development and in use for preparation for a future where we might not be so reliant on fossil fuels.
Are we living a bit of a contradiction then in this country and even particularly in Newfoundland and Labrador, where we have a federal government that's trying very hard to get everybody to push for more of a low carbon economy, but yet we're still pulling the petroleum out, if there's a dollar in it, as fast as we can get it?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you offered somebody $5 today and $50 in a year, they're going to take the $5 today. It's very difficult to think down the road and think into the future. And these projects are generating revenue for us right now. The impacts of climate change, they are seeing them right now in a lot of places, but this is a future problem. It's considered as a future problem by a lot of people. Even our federal government, they say one thing and then they approve pipeline projects. And I'm not against oil and gas development or economic stimulus. It's just you need to have a diversified approach and a long-term strategy. And I do believe that the managed decline of reliance on fossil fuels has got to be part of that strategy.
Thanks very much for coming in.
Thank you very much for taking the time to listen.
That's Delia Warren. She's the director of Iron and Earth East. It's the local branch of a national nonprofit group that campaigns for renewable energy projects. And you can find out more at ironandearth.org.